long as you don't have a lot of background noise. I'm Charles Thornton Colby. I'm the executive partner of the Partnership for International Birding. On the video conference today is David Trently, my long-term surviving business partner. Good on him. David absolutely loves to bird in Alaska and will really enjoy sharing some stories about that today. I'm just going to take about 2 minutes to introduce the call and then 2 minutes to introduce David. And truly, we hope it's sort of an interactive affair. So just in terms of the ground rules, when we initially started this like 2 or 3 months ago, we thought like we could maximize handle 12 or 14 people. We've had calls with 30, 40 people on them. And truly, some people really like to participate and some don't. But we would love you to ask questions and participate. So don't hesitate to jump in at the appropriate time with a question. And you can always text questions to the hidden facilitator here, Arturo Kirkconnell. He's out there and he will share your questions. I'm in my mother-in-law's house in Nebraska, so I'm on a pad today. I don't really know if I can get text or not, but Arturo will take care of your questions. Again, you can ask them or text them in. You are welcome to do so. And truly, if things get a little rowdy, you know, we may quiet things down, but truly, birders seem pretty good to be quiet in the forest area for the most part, and also on the Zoom calls. So, but feel free to pipe in with questions. We would love them. So just a quick agenda today. David's going to cover 3 of his favorite sites, and I think he's snuck in a 4th one, birding around Anchorage. But you're also get good bits on Seward, Nome, and Denali National Park today. After sort of each geographic area, we'll take a little stop for formal questions and move on. And, you know, the typical presentation for each site takes 4 to 6 minutes, and then questions for 2 or 3. So that's about 40, 50 minutes of content. And then we'll just sort of open it up for questions at the end, and then we'll sort of wrap up in about an hour's time. So no matter how this thing goes, we welcome you to participate and ask questions. Welcome aboard. A few bits on David Trently. David has loved natural history his entire life, and he has seriously studied birds and butterflies for over 20 years. For nearly 2 decades, he has led trips for local bird clubs and Audubon groups. He's been a professional bird guide for something like 16 years, maybe close to 20 years. In addition to birding, David spends a lot of time documenting butterflies and dragonfly species. And whatever his home ground is, which he's moved around a little bit, his advice is always sought on the distribution of butterflies and dragonflies. He has worked for the University of Tennessee in the entomology and plant pathology department. He has an MS degree from the University of Tennessee and a BS in biological research from the University of Scranton in Pennsylvania, which is pretty close to his home stomping grounds now. He's recently moved back to Pennsylvania and now works full-time for the PIB, the Partnership for International Birding. And as a partner, he truly coordinates all of our USA, Canada trips, and he's happy to guide anywhere in the United States. David has been birding across USA for the last 16 years or so, and has been the main PIB guide in Alaska for the last 6 years. We usually run 2 trips per year in Alaska. I suspect we're going to start running 3 trips a year, maybe even 4. We've recruited a new guide who's sort of a Pacific Coast of the USA and Canada specialist. So we look forward to welcoming a new guide here in the next 12 months. But David does have 2 tours scheduled for 2021. One of them, I think I just filled up last week. I think the second one has some availability still. Enough about the sales bit. Here's David Trently to talk a little bit about Alaska birding and wildlife.
All right.
Go ahead, Dave.
Thanks, Chuck. Well, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Our Alaska trip has two parts. The main tour starts in Anchorage, then we go up to Denali National Park. We go east to a little town called Paxson, back to Anchorage, and down south to Seward. We take a boat trip and then finishes up in Anchorage. But then there's a Nome extension that's, depending on your trip, it's either before the trip or afterwards. But we will start by where everybody goes when you go to Alaska. You start out in Anchorage, and this is a view of Anchorage from one of the parks on the edge of town. The upper left side of the screen is where the airport is, and at the top you could see a mountain in the distance. That's about 50 or 60 miles away. It's hard to judge distances when you're there because things are so big. But you can see the water there at the top. It's kind of hazy, but that's the Cook Inlet. That's salt water, but it's mostly, well, it's brackish water because a lot of rivers flow into that, but it is an extension of the Pacific Ocean. So that's just a little idea of what Anchorage is like. It's a flat area just off the mountains all around it. We're right next to a lake, which has like the biggest floatplane base in the world, but that's okay. Lake, and you're likely to see things like red-throated loons and Pacific loons, and sometimes even common loons. When you get to the hotel, if you get there before the guide and myself gets there, there's plenty of birding to do just by walking and checking the lake. You can also see these red-necked phalaropes. These are very common, and redneck grebes. There's a lot of red birds there. Redneck grebes, redneck.
Hey, David, I'm having a little, like, the sound seems to be bouncing a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a text from somebody else who indicated the same.
Okay. I'll move closer. We haven't had trouble before. How's this seem better?
Exactly. Try to move a little bit closer to the mic.
Is this any better now? I've moved in closer.
Yep.
Yeah, I think moving closer and just slow down a little bit, and I think it'll probably correct it.
Okay, I'll try staying close and see how this works. Let me know.
Good.
Okay, so other birds that are around Anchorage that are fairly common to see is this arc tern. With them, notice there's no black tip of the bill like a common tern would have. Sometimes we get, even at the hotel grounds, a boreal chickadee, or in the forest around the lake near the hotel, we get boreal chickadees. Some other common birds that are found in Anchorage itself, because a lot of times people like to know what they should expect to see when they're just arriving. Well, there's alder flycatchers, black-billed magpies, common ravens, violet-green swallows, a lot of American robins, yellow-rumped warblers, northern water thrush, orange-crowned warblers, yellow warblers, Savannah sparrows, and dark-eyed juncos. Some years, common redpolls are around by the hotel as well. Okay, all right. Can't get rid of it. Well, anyway, as we go from Anchorage, we start to drive up to Denali National Park. But you're always on lookout for moose. We see moose throughout the trip in all the areas we go. They're on Anchorage, Seward, Nome. Full pictures of them, close views of them sometimes. We usually stop along a river. What's that?
You're still cutting out a little bit. I don't know. Just try to get closer and speak loud.
Okay.
I don't know.
We usually stop at a stream on the way up to Seward and get a good look at harlequin ducks and American dippers. Before we get to Denali, there's a pull-off on the side of the road that we stop at, and you're not likely to see what you see here, which is Mount McKinley or Denali in the background. Usually it's covered with clouds, but every so often you get to see at least some of the mountain itself. So this is the drive from Anchorage to the area of Denali, and the next day we go into Denali National Park. It's a 8 to 9 hour bus ride, and we don't get off the bus very much. There's bathroom breaks and there's scenic views stops where we can get a camera and take some nice pictures, but we do get to see a lot of interesting wildlife. And this is one of the first things that we look for as birders. Most people on the bus are not interested in the birds, but we always have a group of birders on there, and we're looking in the first few miles. There's a lot of spruce trees, And at the top, sometimes we get a northern hawk owl like this one. As we go further in, it gets a little less spruce and some more willows and other trees. And you get, occasionally you get a golden eagle. We usually see a few golden eagles. I think last year we saw maybe 10 of them on the bus drive. They're often being chased by magpies or long-tailed jaegers sometimes, or northern harriers. Some of the smaller birds that are very common are golden crowned sparrows, savanna sparrows.
I'm gonna just take another administrative break here. David, can you hear me at all, bud?
You're breaking up for me right now.
Yeah, you're breaking. Yep.
Yep, you're breaking here. So maybe if the participants could just mute themselves until we get to the question part. We've actually never had this technical problem before. I don't know what's going on today. We'll blame it on slow internet in Oliphant, Pennsylvania, but maybe I don't know what it is. It's really weird.
Yeah, we've not had this problem before. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a weirdo one. But let's just see. Let's just try to unmute and maybe just eliminating all background sound will help. And Arturo, as the main cook there, the main chef, you can mute everybody but David and me, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So do.
Yep.
Okay.
So everybody's muted now. Yep.
All right. Give it a try.
Give it a go.
Okay. Well.
And you can slow down a little bit, bud. We got plenty of time.
Okay. Well, as we're driving in Denali National Park, we're looking at some beautiful scenery. And if you see in the middle here, there's a little bit of like an orange-yellow color and a big white spot. That white spot is something that I really want to see because there's two deer falcons sitting right above there. They nest on those rocks, and usually the bus can stop at some area nearby to get a picture of them. We got lucky this time. There was a place to pull off, and there weren't many buses coming. A lot of times there's so much traffic of just buses that we can't pull over and get a good picture of them. This is what the road looks like. You see how narrow that is, cut into the side of the hills, and this is in the area near where those deer falcons are found. But there's some just beautiful scenery, and we see the falcons every year. The scenery. We do see a good number of birds in Denali National Park. I showed you the golden eagle and the hawk owl. We see magpies, sometimes long-tailed jaegers, northern harrier, maybe a short-eared owl or a merlin. But a lot of people go there especially hoping to see mammals. And this is the most common one, the Arctic ground squirrel. But most people want caribou. And if there's still snow on the ground, the caribou are usually on the snow because the mosquitoes tend to be away from the cooler temperatures. They're out over the rocks. So a lot of times the caribou will be sitting on the snow. Pretty close to them. This was right alongside the bus. We also see a good number of Dall sheep. That's D-A-L-L, named after scientists who studied them in Denali National Park. And of course, brown bear or grizzly bear. We usually see a half dozen to 10 or so of these. And sometimes they're walking on the road or right next to the road. You can see these pictures were taken from the bus. You're not allowed to get off the bus anytime there's bears around. So, but we take these from the bus windows. The grizzlies in Denali are this blonde color for the most part, and they're not as big as the bears you might find in some other parts of Alaska because there's no salmon in Denali National Park, so they don't eat as much fish. They're not getting as much protein. They're eating a lot of berries and fruits and smaller animals. This is at the end of the bus ride. You go about 4 or 5 hours, and you get out at Eielson Visitor Center. And sometimes you're lucky and you can see Denali again. This is Mount McKinley in the background. Look up toward the top above the clouds. That's the peak of the mountain there. A lot of years you don't see anything but clouds, but we've had about 50-50 shot of seeing the mountain. One of the birds that we look for in Denali National Park and other areas of the trip is the Arctic warbler. Usually we don't get this in Denali, but it's in the area and we'll see it the next day as we're leaving Denali heading toward that small town I mentioned called Paxson. I think I'm with Denali now. Yeah, okay, so I'll finish this one. After Denali, we do leave the park and go on the Denali Highway the next day, and especially because we want to see this Smith's longspurs. This is there's a lot of birds on the road, Denali Highway, when we go out that way, but we especially want to try for this one, Smith's longspur. Beautiful little bird. You have to walk about a mile and a half round trip on the tundra, but it's definitely worth it to see this little guy.
Okie dokie. We're gonna open up the. Everybody can unmute if you'd like. Any questions about either Anchorage to Denali, or the road to Paxson, as I call it. We didn't spend a lot of time on mostly talking about Denali here, but we're happy to take questions on any of that sort of first 2 or 3 days of birding on the tour. Anybody got any questions at all?
Is Colleen?
Yeah. What do you know that? Well, you probably know. What's the difference between a long spur and a sparrow?
Well, the longspur have that longer toe. I believe it's the back toe. I'm in the eastern U.S., so I don't see longspurs very often. I know by their plumage, but they're not a sparrow, so they're a separate family from the sparrows, the New World sparrows. But they have that longer, one of their toes is longer than the others, and I don't know any more about that though.
Well, I didn't know that, so thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, and generally longspurs are a little bit bigger than most sparrows. Not that that's like 100% thing, right? Am I stupid about that, or I got that about right?
They're a little heavier looking. You can see the big belly like look on that. That's the typical longspur look. Sparrows are maybe a little more slender. Any other questions?
Any other questions out there?
What time of year are we talking about here?
This is in June. We sometimes go late May, but the first 3 weeks of June is our primary time.
Do you know what the plant is with the sort of scalloped edges?
No,
round leaf?
I don't know what that is. No.
Looks like long spurs are 6 inches and sparrows are more like 5.
What about the Alaska's other main state bird? Mosquitoes?
We don't have much trouble with mosquitoes in June. They are sometimes we stop at a place, and if there's a lot of mosquitoes, if it's not a critical place to go, we just move on a couple miles down the road and they're not there. That's typical. We do wear head net sometimes, and some people wear them more than others. It just depends on how tolerant you are of mosquitoes, but they're not too much of a problem. You're usually wearing a jacket because it's cool enough, so they're only coming around your face, and it's easy to protect from them with the head net. But I'd say 90+% of the time, they're not an issue.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I could continue now from after we've left Denali and Denali Highway in the Paxson area. We go back to Anchorage overnight. Then we drive down to Seward. To Seward, we look up in the hillsides, and on the a lot of times you see black bear. So we get 2 types of bears in Alaska. We don't see polar bears; they're too far north from where we are. But we get black bears sometimes. So just so you know, there's other kinds of bears we see. Then as we get towards Seward, scenery here. This is a mountain in Seward. It's called Marathon Mountain. every year on the 4th of July, there's a 5-kilometer race up the top of the mountain. You run up to the top and fall down. It takes about an hour and 45 minutes for the fastest people. And they literally do fall down the mountain. They come down with cuts and scrapes. But it was something you'll learn about when we're in Seward. We do the boat trip out of Seward, and as we go by Marathon Mountain, they'll be certain to talk to us about the race. It started as a bar bet. Somebody said, I bet I can get up that mountain and back in 2 hours. And this was about 100 years ago. And he didn't make it. It was about 2 hours and 6 minutes, but they started the race every year after that. They didn't run it this year because of COVID, unfortunately. In and around Seward, we do get some birds that we don't get up from Anchorage to Denali in the somewhat central part of Alaska, but southern part of Alaska, we do get a lot of pine grosbeaks. Speaks. This is at a feeder because there's a house in Seward that is well known for having sometimes hundreds of birds at the feeder, including the pine grosbeaks and red crossbills, and 2 different kinds of fox sparrows, the sooty fox sparrow on the left and the red fox sparrow on the right. It's one species, just different subspecies of fox sparrows. Main reason we go to Seward is take a boat trip. And as we're leaving the harbor, you'll see lots of these sea otters floating in the Resurrection Bay. And the boat will stop and give you a good chance to look at these guys. Sometimes you'll see these with them. A little bit farther out, as we go on the boat trip, we will pass rocks that have black oyster catchers on them. As you get out into the open Alaska, the Bay of Alaska, Gulf of Alaska, you'll see a lot of the nesting birds. Every bird in this picture that I could tell, I think there might be a couple others near the top. These are all black-legged kittiwakes. And we'll see thousands and thousands of black-legged kittiwakes nesting on the rocks. We'll also see thousands of common murres, which most of these birds are common murres. But if you look on the left side of the screen, those 2 birds with a little bit of like a silver streak on their bill, those are thick-billed murres. They're less common, so you really have to be careful, wary and be looking for them. But there are plenty of spotters on board the boat, helping you to find these birds. I'm always out on the boat pointing out birds to people, but the captain of the boat knows that there are birders on board because there always are. And it may be a whale watching, glacier viewing boat trip, but a lot of time is spent looking at birds. We get 2 kinds of puffins. This one is a tufted puffin. I'm sorry, this is a horned puffin. And we also see a large number of tufted puffins. That bird on the left is a common murre. It's a blurry picture because we're on a boat and you can't get too close to the rock that these are on, but there are 3 species of cormorants on this rock. The main one with that bluish head and the red face is a red-faced cormorant. That's one of the highlights that we look for. It's a double-crested cormorant above that one and pelagic cormorants all around. Pelagic cormorants would be the most common one. Again, it's hard to get some photos because the water's usually fairly calm, but it's still moving a bit. We try to get pictures. That's a black-legged kittiwake, but in front of it, a little bit closer, is a rhinoceros auklet. We do see lots of rhinoceros auklets, a good number of parakeet auklets, sometimes a crested auklet, ancient merlets, marbled merlets, and the next one is another rare one that we don't see very often. We see this every trip, but not many of them. This is a Kitlitz's merlet. So we've made the boat turn around to see this before. Usually it's late in the day and everybody's asleep except the birders, but the captain's wanting to point out scenery and talk about whales and said, no, we got to turn around to see the Kitlitz's merlet. So this is a very small bird, like big sparrow size really, but we do turn around to make sure we get everybody to see that one. Well, the boat trip, besides the birds, we are out there to look for the glaciers. This is Northwestern Glacier, and we spend a lot of time around it, which is really fascinating because there's always pieces breaking off. See, that looks like maybe like a waterfall. That's all ice that has broken off and is falling in. Last year, just as we were leaving, a wall of ice about the size of a football field fell off, and that was really impressive. You see all the ice floating in the water. Usually some birds on the water. These are glaucous winged gulls. And harbor seals like to spend time on the ice. And some more of the marine mammals that we always get on the trips. We see orca or killer whales. They do put a microphone in the water so you can hear what they sound like. And we always get humpback whales as well. That one is, there's one there spouting. And that's one about to dive down deep and saying goodbye. Some sea lions, I believe these are stellar sea lions. And this, I think, is my last one for Seward. After we're back from the boat trip, if we haven't had enough looks at glaciers, we'll drive up to a park and look at this one. This one you can actually walk on this, but we don't have time to go there. But this is called Exit Glacier. And that's probably about 2 miles away. But we a little closer to it if anybody's interested. But I think that's the end of Seward. Okay. So any questions on that part of the trip?
Dave,
Oh, excuse me.
I
How
like-
long is the boat ride?
Okay, the boat ride is about 9 hours. We leave about 8:30 in the morning. We're back about 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
Hey, David, and how rough is that water? Is it?
Most of the time, it's fairly calm. There was one year where it got rough and we had to turn around and come back, but we were still out there long enough to get a lot of birds. But so I've done about maybe 10 trips and only one, it was kind of rough. The rest of the time, it's relatively calm. There's a stretch that we have to go through. It takes about 20 minutes that can be a little rougher, but once we're through there, we're in and among a lot of these rock islands, of the Chiswell Islands, and into the fjords. So people who tend to get seasick, they don't have too much of a problem out there.
David, by now, how many days have passed?
Oh, okay. So the way it goes is we arrive in Anchorage, spend a night, then 2 nights up around Denali, 1 night toward Paxson, that's east of Denali, 1 night back in Anchorage. And so Seward is the last 2 nights of the trip, last 2 days. So this is at the end of the trip here. You're getting a lot of life birds on the last full day of the trip.
Yeah, and truly, Colleen, I believe that was your voice.
Yeah,
Like that's David when he says the last part of the tour, he means the last part of the main tour. We still have the gnome bit to go.
Right. The gnome part is an optional extension, but I highly recommend it. You really shouldn't
and
go to Alaska without going to
truly,
gnome.
When we started doing Alaska tours about I guess in the Mike Fleeg years, we've always kept gnome separate, but it seems like when we initially did it, about half the people did gnome. Now when people book it, we rarely have a person who does not do the gnome extension. I mean, it does happen, but maybe it's 1 in 6, 1 in 8 people. And truly, gnome is half the good birding on the trip. Any other questions out there about the Seward area?
I have a question, but it's actually goes back to Paxum.
Okay.
You didn't
Cool.
speak much about why we would go there and what we were trying to see there.
Okay, well, one of the reasons we go there is because that's the only place the Smith's longspurs are. But it's about a 100-mile drive on a dirt road that it takes all day because we go very slowly there. It's a great place for Arctic warbler. We usually get willow ptarmigan, maybe wandering tattlers. It's possible to get northern wheat ear, gerfalcon, olive-sided flycatcher, varied thrush usually is there, trumpeter swans. So there's a lot of birding on the way. There's several ponds that have a good number of ducks and some shorebirds. You get to see nesting shorebirds. I don't know if you've ever seen a greater yellowlegs sitting in a tree calling. That's in Alaska. They're on their nesting grounds. They're in the trees instead of on the mud flats. So it's a beautiful drive out to the Paxson area. But those are some of the birds we look for there. Some additional ones. It gives us a chance for Bohemian waxwing, American three-toed woodpecker, I can't, I'm trying to think of what,
Good.
dippers, crossbills, whimbrels, American golden plovers. So there's quite a few birds out that way that are easy to see from the roadside.
And do you spend the night in Paxum or do you
Yes.
just turn around? Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, we used to go to, Paxton is at the end of that road, but there's like 20 miles west of there is Tangle Lakes, and that's where we would stay, but the lodge there has closed. So now we're going to be trying a new place called McLaren Lodge, but it's all in the same area, same birds in that area.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. And truly, you know, on some of these video conferences, I mean, India is probably the prime example. You know, you can just take on too much. And
Yeah.
so we have found just talking about like 4 to 6 sites is plenty to kind of keep the storytelling solid. So I'm glad you asked that question about Paxson because I kind of wanted him to do it. So nice job, David. And there you go. Any other questions? That was a great one. Any other questions out there from the participants?
So we're not going to Kenai Peninsula?
Well, the Seward is on the part of the Kenai Peninsula, but we don't go out farther onto it. No, we drive down along the edge of it from Anchorage to Seward. So we are on it for a little bit. There's some good birding in that area. Like some of the birds we get outside of, before we even get to Seward, but on the Kenai Peninsula that I haven't mentioned are Townsend's warbler, chestnut-backed chickadee, very thrush is usually found in that area. A lot of times we get river otters around there as well. So yeah, we don't go to Homer, which is at the other end of the Kenai Peninsula.
Okay,
All right.
Any other questions? Thank you, folks. We're doing great on time, but Nome is well worth it. So I think we're going to jump to Nome. David, go on.
All right.
To Nome, please.
So
Yeah, hi David. So there was another question they were asking if the boat trip is into Kenai fjords.
yes, the boat trip is to the Kenai Fjords National
Okay.
Park. Pretty much the whole trip is in the national park itself. And so we are in among some of the fjords there. Yes.
Another great question. I didn't mean to interrupt anyone, Arturo. Thanks for getting that text in. Any other questions out there to ask or to text in? Take another minute or two if we need it. Hearing none. Thanks for jumping in there, Arturo. David, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, like Chuck was saying, there's so much in Alaska. I mean, I could talk about it for 2-3 hours, but we're trying to limit it, of course. So, well, here we are. My favorite part of Alaska is Nome, which is the end of the Iditarod dog sled race. We have a chance to stop here if anybody wants photos. People usually like to get a photo near that sign. So this is in the town of Nome. This is the place we stay. I wanted to put a picture here because the name of it is the Dredge No. 7 Inn. I know Chuck kind of thinks of it as like sounds like a rundown place because of the name, the Dredge. But it's a really nice home, and there's several rooms in there that we share, that we use, and there's another building off to the side. And there's good birding from the grounds of the Dredge Inn. But you have to be careful because in town, this is on the edge of Nome, you have to watch out where you're walking because you might run into musk oxen. They sometimes come up pretty close to the lodge, and they're very big. So you want to avoid them, but that's usually not a problem. We do get we see them every trip in Nome and outside of Nome. But okay, so the birding in Nome, we're there for 3 full days. And each day we take a different road out of town. There are only 3 roads out of town. The round trip about 150 miles. But we leave about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the mornings, and we're back 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Lots of birds to see out there. I don't have pictures of all of them. I wish I could, but just have some. But we do see a lot of great birds. Oh, I forgot I have a red fox. They come around near the lodge as well. Oh yeah, and one year we saw a walrus in the Bering Sea. Not a great picture, but I wanted to show that. Okay, So from the lodge and pretty much any time we're driving around Nome, one of the more noticeable birds is the long-tailed jaeger. Sometimes we'll see groups of 20 or 30 of them, but usually just a few around. Now, this is not a long-tailed jaeger, in case you're wondering if I got it wrong. This is a parasitic jaeger. They are out there as well, but not as many. But it's nice to see when they interact, because the parasitic jaegers seem to be in charge. They'll chase down the long-tailed jaegers and make them drop their food and steal it, because they are parasitizing the food from the long-tailed jaegers. But all around Nome, there's long-tailed jaegers flying around. And on the roadsides, we always see willow ptarmigan, a female on the left and a male on the right with still some of his winter white plumage. You can see these from the lodge. You see them on the roads, going out in and out of town. And if we're lucky, some years we see rock ptarmigan. They tend to go to higher elevations in the summer, so they're not always around in June, but some years we get to see a few of them. One of the highlight birds that people go to Nome to see is this one, the bristle-thighed curlew. And the picture's not clear enough to see his bristled thighs, but it's a great bird to see. We walk up a hill on tundra to see this guy, and there's a lot of whimbrels flying around as well as bristle-thighed curlews. They look very similar, but as we're driving the road to this place, we make sure that everybody learns how to distinguish the two birds by sound and by what they look like in flight. Sitting on the ground, it's kind of hard to tell them apart, but one has a buffy rump and one has a grayer rump, so that helps when they're flying, and they sound very different when they call. They're very vocal, which is good. In and around Nome, on the water, in little streams, we see this guy, the wandering tattler. And Pacific golden plovers are somewhat the most common plover, though we do see a good number of semi-palmated plovers and American golden plovers. We don't usually see black-bellied plovers, but they're around as well. Many of the ponds on the roadsides throughout the area have long-tailed ducks. And I put two pictures here. These are both males, but you can see how different they are in the pictures. It's kind of nice when you're driving up just a puddle and it has a long-tailed duck swimming in it. Nome has a large number of tundra swans. There's one of the roads that we take out of town goes through the area called Safety Sound, and there's a place there where there's well over 100 tundra swans. Sometimes we'll be visited by rough-legged hawks. Usually we see golden eagles. There's nesting sites for the rough-legged hawks. We'll see nests of golden eagles. We'll see nests of gerfalcons some years. We do see the gerfalcon, as I mentioned, in Denali. Sometimes there's bald eagles around as well. One year we got really lucky and stopped at the side of a bridge and looked, and there was this lady sleeping, covering her nest. This is a gerfalcon up close.
Oh, cool.
We were in early June, and the second trip that same year I came back like 2 weeks later, there was baby gerfalcon. Mom was up on a hillside nearby, not very happy that we were there, but no, we have to be careful because gerfalcons do attack people, so we didn't stay around there too long. There are plenty of songbirds to be seen around Nome, and this is one that everybody likes to see. This is a hoary redpoll. Common redpolls are more abundant, but we see a few hoary redpolls every day. And this one, one of the end of one of the roads is in the town called Teller, and there's usually a white wagtail or two nesting in town there. Another wagtail that we usually get, don't have a picture of, is the eastern yellow wagtail. They're smaller than this bird here, but they kind of look like a pipit, but they're very visible as we drive around. We see them usually.
So do they wag their tails, David?
I don't know about the white wagtail. The eastern yellows definitely do. Some of the other wagtails I know do. This one is a northern wheatear. We see them in a couple different places. And really the star, one of the stars, I mean, there's so many star birds of Nome, but this is one that everybody really wants to see, is the blue throat. We don't always get great looks like this, but we usually see 4 or 5 of them or hear them, sometimes see them in flight doing the display. But it's great when we can get one or two to stop, to sit on top of a willow so we can take its picture. And well, so I just want to mention some of the other birds around Nome, since I don't have pictures of all of them, but we see greater white-fronted geese, cackling geese, common eiders, bar-tailed godwits, black turnstones, red-necked stint, Aleutian terns, short-eared owls, Bohemian waxwings, Lapland longspurs, and rusty blackbirds. But I wanted to put this picture here. This is kind of what you wear much of the time in Alaska. This was actually in Nome. We do a lot of picnic lunches, especially in Nome, because once you leave Nome, you have that 75-mile road. There's nothing out there, no places to buy anything or stop. So there's a few places with picnic tables. We do our picnic lunches. You see somebody
None
there.
way back.
What's the question?
None way back. Once you leave, none way back. Go ahead, no worries.
Okay. You see some people eating with the mosquito netting on, but they're not being swarmed by mosquitoes here, just a few around. But that was a nice lunch. You can see we're comfortable. It's not too cold, not too warm. Very nice. And every so often, my last slide, somebody is brave enough to step into the Bering Sea. It's pretty cold, but not frozen. So really, that's all the pictures I have, but I'm hoping that there'll be plenty of questions or anybody wants to know more about what Nome or any other part of Alaska is like.
David, that Bristol side curlew, you said it was a hill. It's more like a mountain climb. And it'd be good if you had trekking poles.
Oh, yes.
The tundra just kind of grabs your legs and feet and you fall. And we hiked up there and we couldn't find the bird, and getting back down was really difficult because they didn't have any poles. So that was exhausting. The tour wanted to go back out the next day and look, and I said, I'm not going. I'm not breaking a hip. So that's hard.
Susan, I do want to talk a little bit more about that. So Susan, I know you did that trip with another tour group, but David, I mean, everybody always asks about that trail. Everybody seems to know something about it. I mean, how far of a walk is it? Like a couple hundred yards or longer?
It depends. I would say average is about a half mile to 3/4 mile round trip.
Gotcha.
I think that's about, and it depends on where the birds are. Some years, last year we were lucky. We only went about 200 yards and they flew by and we were able to turn around and go back. Some years we spend 2 hours up there. We definitely take our time. We try to get there, about 9 o'clock in the morning and don't leave till lunchtime. So we were there for 2 to 3 hours. There are people that are much slower walking, but we wait. I bring my scope with me up the hill and set it up. And the birds are usually fairly cooperative. They stay out in the open. It's not like there's much to hide in. It's just small shrubby things. But once we get to where the birds are, everybody gets a good chance to see them. And there's sometimes rock ptarmigans, American golden plovers, and Lapland longspurs up there as well, which is nice. So there's plenty to look at while we're looking for the curlews. There's also whimbrels flying by at the same time.
Was that the trail we just looked at behind the picnic table where everybody was eating?
No.
Okay.
No, if you see the green on either side of the trail, that's kind of what you're walking up. You're walking in vegetation. There are little paths because there have been hundreds or thousands of birders walking up and down that hill. So it is a narrow path, sometimes only as wide as your foot. But a lot of times you end up getting off that narrow path and walking in the vegetation. So people have fallen, but you're falling in soft vegetation. Nobody's ever gotten hurt. I've tumbled down a couple times and you just kind of get back up. It's like a very cushioned ground. The tundra is squishy and soft. It's good to wear rubber boots if you have them because it can be wet. But it's not the easiest walking, but everybody in that group there made it. Everybody in every group that's wanted to go has made it up there and gotten to see the birds.
David, and about what percentage of clientele go for it? About on average, how long does it take?
Well,
And have we ever missed it? I suppose
no,
we
we've never
have.
missed it.
So we've
Never missed it.
Typically a couple hours, or
Yeah, it depends. Last year was a half an hour. Most of the time it's 2 to 3 hours. We're in no rush to get out of there because that's the bird we're there for that day. If it took longer, we'd stick around for it. But 2-3 hours worth of time, and almost everybody goes see it. We've had only 2 people I think ever not go. One woman was handicapped and she couldn't do it, but everyone else who wanted to made it up that hill.
yeah. And just so you know, David, Mandy on my last Zoom call pointed out that in Hawaii, you walk across a golf course to see the Bristol Pike.
You walk across what?
A golf course to see the Bristol Pike.
Oh, yeah. In Hawaii, it's very different.
Yeah, Hawaii, it's easy peasy when it's in season. But yeah, which actually brings me to my next question, which isn't really gnome centered, but one of the participants was asking about the season. Truly, we schedule this thing every year. We've sort of creeped to starts to late May into maybe the 3rd week of June. How long is it really, and what's sort of the value of going early versus later, even though I know in the end it's almost always washed out in terms of actual species seen. But give them your spin on kind of when to go, and the season is tight.
Sure. Early, like late May, is a good time to be in Nome because that's when you have a better chance of some of the rarities that are moving farther north. And some of the rarities that have shown up in late May and early June would be things like great knot, Mongolian sand plover, Ross's gull, ivory gull, one of the other tattlers, gray-tailed tattler. So some of the shorebirds that you really get in Asia, they often are there around that time of year. Problem with going that early, the roads can be still snow covered and some areas could be blocked. You might miss species like Arctic warbler, which shows up a little bit later. So benefits of coming a little bit later, you're more guaranteed to see Arctic warbler. Another one, Eastern yellow wagtail, shows up a little bit later. Better chance of seeing them later in June. And
so truly, when we're scheduling that thing, we do about 1 trip a year with Nome first off for that late May bit. And truly, almost every time we do it, for every bird we lose in early May, we gain something else in June. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah, it's always a 1 or 2 bird tick one way or the other. Truly, I would be happy to ABA list all of that. So one day I will join you in Alaska, David. I'll be your driver, man.
Sure. Yeah,
Maybe
like you just said, the last year, the late June trip to Nome, this was like in the June 20th or something like that. I don't know the exact date, but 3rd week of June in Nome, we had slaty-backed gull and Arctic loon. We hadn't seen those before, and so you can get good stuff late, you can get good stuff early. So whichever trip you pick, you're certainly going to enjoy it. We almost don't miss anything of the expected birds on either trip. The Arctic warbler can be tricky because they come in later in June, but we've never missed that bird even on an early trip.
Yeah.
This might be
a great question about the schedule bit. It's unfortunately, like a lot of ABA birding trips, has a very tight schedule to get the good stuff, so to speak. Any other questions out there?
Yeah, is it possible just to join you for Nome?
Yes, we've had something do that in the past.
It is designed to be an extension, and we do charge a premium for that. We virtually run Nome at cost, and so we do have to charge a premium if you do Nome only, and we've had maybe about one person a year who does that. And Gnome Extension really is the first people who get dibs are people doing the full trip. So there you go.
Okay.
Good question, though.
I have an Eider question.
Yes.
You mentioned the common Eider. On any of the locations that you've shared with us today, are there chances of seeing spectacled or other Eiders?
Yes, they are in Nome. Nome is the place. Spectacled Eider, Stellar's Eider, and King Eider are all possible there, but we haven't been lucky enough to find them yet. But they are certainly possible.
I saw them at the Sea Life Center in Seward.
Oh, okay, yeah. That a lot of people go there. When we get to Seward, we get there early enough in the evening. We're always there before 5 p.m. So people who want to can go to the Seward Sea Life Center and spend an hour or two there, and you get up close looks at a lot of the birds that we hope to see in the wild.
Now, are they wild there, David, or is that
They're captive birds.
Oh, it's a captive bird site. Yeah, okay.
David, have you been to Gamble?
No, we have not done Gamble yet.
Right, and we do offer Pribilof and Gamble extensions. I truly, I mean, happy to talk about how to let Ader off the phone because I don't want to, I'm an economist and I always look at cost per life bird, and I know that that's abhorrent to some birders, but I truly, I mean, we've had a couple people do Gamble extensions and Pribilof extensions, and we're happy to support that. Is how I should answer that question. But if you look at the cost per bird, it ain't great. And there you go. Sorry to be. Yeah, we're happy to support that. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah,
but I was mostly
anytime,
just curious if David had ever been there.
What?
I was mostly curious just to know whether David had been there because he's obviously knows Alaska quite well.
Yeah.
Not
and
yet.
I've been to Gamble and I saw all 4 eiders and it's really an amazing place.
Yeah. No, yes, that's fair.
How many nights in Nome?
3 nights in Nome. And if you go on the first trip, Nome Extension is a pre-trip one. So we actually get there about noon. So you have 3.5 days of birding in Nome. And if you do the Nome Extension that's at the end of the trip, we get there in the evening. And it's still light, so there's birding in the evening if you want. But we have 3 full days before we fly back to Anchorage.
Yeah.
So David, do you fly on Penn Air out of Anchorage to Nome?
No, Alaska Airlines.
Oh, okay.
Your comment about the evening brings up another question, because it sounds like you stop birding, 4 or 5 o'clock, around dinner time, but it's light much later than that. Are we just on our own then? We just wander around in whatever location we are and do our own birding?
Well, a lot of times, every time really, I offer people a chance to continue if we want, but everybody's usually ready to relax and get checked into wherever we're staying and go to dinner. Usually I go wandering around birding and everybody else is relaxing. But there are opportunities to continue birding later in the evening. Absolutely. We just don't have anything official planned. It's up to the people and how they feel.
Thanks.
Yeah, so you're welcome to go birding with David after supper, and but usually most people are tuckered out. Any other questions? I have one more if we have time, and we got 6 minutes left. Any other questions out there at all?
David, do you have a pretty detailed list of what the expectations are you can see other than what's on the website? Like these are pretty common species versus these are rare and you probably won't see based on location.
Yes, I have a list I can email to people that shows everything we've seen on our trips there. So you can see that anything that is checked out for every trip, you'll know those are the common ones. And there'll be a few things that are checked just one trip. So you know those are the rare ones. But I can send that to people if you contact us and give me your email address.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and you can either email david@pibird.com or charles@pibird.com. We're glad to help you out with that. And truly, when we started the Zoom calls in July, really in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I realized we needed to send out more post-call information. So we plan to send out a little post-call email with more tour information about every 6 to 8 weeks. About the second email is planned to be a frequency list or trip report, so you can get a good feel with that. And I do like frequency lists more just because it shows all the possible stuff and gives you an idea about the tough stuff and how likely you're actually going to see it. But that was a great question. Thank you. Any other questions?
I would like to add one thing, number of birds that we see. On the main Alaska portion of the trip, we somewhere between 120 and 130 species, and then Nome adds about 20 to 30 new species. So somewhere around 150 species for the trip.
Yeah, and I'll just take a moment here for an administrative break, and then we'll do kind of final questions in the last minute in it there. I'm hoping that's your phone, David, and not
mine.
It is mine. I don't even know. It's my mother-in-law's house. I don't even know how to deal with that. Good Lord. Maybe I do. I'm terrified to undo our phone. Anyway, so we do record these phone calls. And if your name has been mentioned, we're pretty careful with last names. But if you feel like your privacy has been breached in any way, please email Arturo at operations@pibird.com. Again, that's operations@pibird.com. And we will just edit out whatever you need us to edit out on the phone call. I mean, on the video conference. It does creep onto YouTube, and then it creeps onto Facebook, and then it gets linked to our website so you can watch the content or share it with your birding friends. And there you go. And truly, we always use premier local bird guides on our tours. We always keep our groups small, 6 to 8 people. Our prices are lower than everybody else. And I'm going to flip back to the dredging in a second because it's not the lodging that we chintz on. I don't sometimes know why we're so competitive in the United States, but we are. Maybe we just need to charge more. I know David feels we need to pay guides more. I'm kidding. We always save an acre for bird conservation. In 15 years in business, we've saved over 85,000 acres. And we're truly looking forward to getting to the other end of the pandemic. We're more than glad to book you on tours now. Alaska, the second date has room. And I suspect we're going to add a third date in there someplace, probably about the same time as the second tour. But feel free to call us. And then on domestic tours, I think if we're say this tour is in late May, I would think in early April, we would be having a discussion to make sure, cases are down and or people have a vaccine. We truly do not want to run on a tour and have people be exposed to COVID-19. That is just not worth it for us in any possible way. But then if, we all decide to postpone the tour, we all decide to postpone the tour. And truly, we've postponed something like 56 tours now. I lose count because now we're postponing things through early 2021. Ouch. But it is what it is. We're just hope for some good word here soon that's actual and believable. Enough of my propaganda. Anything else to add, David? Any other questions out there?
Chuck, I don't know how to find these recordings. Do I just go to YouTube and put in Partners in International Birding?
The best thing to do is go to our website, and on the front page of any tour that we've done a call on, just go down to the bottom of the very first page and you'll see a little link to the video conference. And if
Okay,
you can't find it, feel free to just email operator. We will send you a link.
okay.
Good
Anything else?
question. Any other questions? David, are you frozen out?
Not right now. You are.
Okay, good. Hey. And there you go. Arturo puts out the YouTube link. Thank you, Arturo. That looks like a copy paste job to me. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'm just gonna ask the final little bit about the dredge-in. David, there's no other lodging choice up there, right?
There's some hotel type things in town, but the dredge-in is too nice. It's really, really a nice place. And it's outside of town.
I truly, we always do look for the best lodging available. Most birders truly just want a clean, nice place. We try to be a good star above that. And truly, I hate the name of the dredge-in because it sounds like it's going to look terrible. I've actually never seen an image of it. So, David, thanks for sharing that.
I wanted you to see that.
Yeah. Because every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, man, I envision like a stone block, a cement block hotel, but it's actually quite nice looking. They should change its name to Musk Ox Inn.
Yeah.
And there you go. I have renamed lodges around the world here and there, and the owners have taken to my names. So there you go. I'll give them a call. Any other questions, folks? Hey, we appreciate your time. We appreciate your participation. Hope to get you on a birding trip soon, post-pandemic. In the meantime, stay safe. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David,
Hi, everyone.
this is great. So nice to see you,
Hi,
David.
Dee Dee.
Great presentation.
Bye all.
Wonderful.
Thank you.